Hello, everyone, and happy holidays. You are listening to Scenecraft. From opening shots to long takes and epilogues, we examine our favorite scenes from cinema here on the podcast. I'm Cody, here with my co-hosts,
Mark
and Connor. Happy holidays, you filthy animals.
Thank you all so much for tuning into our first year of the Scenecraft podcast. This has been such a fun project, which we started in February of this year. I think we've learned a ton about podcasting and really looking forward to improving and continuing into 2024. And to help us do that and continue on, we would so appreciate the holiday gift of a star rating and review on the Apple Podcasts and Spotify app. We're an ad-free, independent podcast, and every rating really does help us massively, so thank you in advance. Today, we're going to change up the format just a little bit and focus exclusively on the 1990 holiday classic, Home Alone, directed by Chris Columbus.
When the McAllister family left on their Christmas vacation...
Did we miss the flight? No, you just made it. Yeah!
They forgot one small thing.
Have yourself
I've a terrible feeling. Did you lock up?
Yeah.
Do we set the timers on the lights?
Mm-hmm. What else could we be forgetting?
Our troubles will be ours.
Kevin!
Home Alone.
If you have somehow gone all of these years without experiencing the magic of Home Alone, the logline reads, "An 8-year-old troublemaker mistakenly left home alone must defend his house against a pair of burglars on Christmas Eve." So this film is very close to our hearts here on the podcast. I'd probably say it's even been a cultural touchstone on the whole for our friendship over the past 20 years or so. It's definitely a shared core childhood experience and extra meaningful because it was released in the year 1990, the year all three of us were born. And it was filmed and is set in the Chicagoland suburbs where we all grew up. So we have that, John Hughes familiarity. I first remember watching this movie on VHS during Christmases at my grandparents' house, where their cozy Wisconsin cottagey setting felt like the perfect match to the tone of the film. Home Alone is easily my favorite holiday movie of all time, probably one of my favorite movies, period. I watch it at least once every Christmas. It's one of those films I could probably recite line for line as it plays, to my wife's annoyance. Even more annoying, a lovely cheese pizza just for me. Every time we order pizza or go to a pizzeria, without any exception, say it every time. Mm-hmm. I think this is just one of those movies where every single creative working on it, they were working hand in glove together. As a result, there's this sort of inexplicable magic in it. Honestly, I'm just so close to this movie that I don't even think I could recognize its flaws if I tried. I think it far surpasses your standard holiday film by presenting enduring, compassionate themes, cut with the darkly comedic edge and even sheer malice of Kevin McAllister's famous booby traps in the house. I'm really excited to dig much deeper into Home Alone today. Mark, I want to hear about your experiences with this movie over the years.
I too watched this VHS with my family all the time. More specifically, my sister, and I distinctly remember the Ferngully and Pepsi ads that played before the movie, and we would never skip them. We would watch them every time.
Ferngully, nice.
Yeah. For me, Home Alone is such a playful film that works just as well as an adult as it does a kid, for reasons we'll probably discuss. But I remember first seeing it as a kid and seeing the Chicago suburbs on screen, and it made it feel like the movie was made for me. Mm-hmm. And the McAllister family dynamic was so enticing to watch because it felt like a real family. You know, the fighting, the hidden resentments, and just the craziness that I hadn't really seen in a movie before. And so that was kind of nice to see as a kid. There's just so many moments that feel like real lived in experiences and memories because of their specificity. I'm thinking about the scary furnace, a picture of Buzz's girlfriend shooting the figurines down the laundry chute, sliding down the stairs, angels with filthy souls. There's just so many.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the film as an adult, I was surprised at how tight the movie was, and I found it kind of fun to look for the little details that help corroborate the highly unlikely premise of him being left home alone. And it was just kind of neat to see how the movie works from an adult perspective. And more importantly, we also spent a lot of time with Kevin's mother, which lends itself nicely to adults looking to experience this movie with their kids. And it's funny to me that this movie feels simultaneously timeless, yet a distinct touchstone of the 90s that I can look back on fondly. And then lastly, as you mentioned, Cody, this is set during Christmas with John Williams's iconic score. And so it just makes this film irresistible to watch every holiday season. What about you, Connor?
So I also grew up watching this movie every year around Christmas time, and I agree. I'd have to say this is my favorite holiday movie of all time. I think the fact that Home Alone is such an iconic film and, like we've said, was shot in Winnetka, a few towns over from where we all grew up, it gave me a sense of pride. And like you, Mark, it made me think this movie is for me. We live in Chicago now, but we were up in the suburbs last night to see my family, and my wife and I actually drove past the Home Alone house on our way home. It was all lit up with a line of cars parked across the street from it, families out front taking pictures. I think that's a great snapshot of how 33 years later, it still holds such a special place in people's hearts. What I love about Home Alone is that there's something for everyone in this film at any age you watch it, and it treats every age group with intelligence. It's been a unique experience to grow up with this movie too, like you guys were saying. We all started watching it when we were about Kevin's age, or maybe Fuller's age. And now we're all closer to Kevin's parents' ages in the movie.
Wow.
The miracle of this movie, for me, is how they chose to make a story about the realistic side of the holidays. And that's what makes it so relatable. Family dysfunction, burglars at Christmas time, being so busy you forget your kid, an older man who's not allowed to see his granddaughter because he had a falling out with his son. Even a serial killer who lives on your block. Like, if you think about it, these are all pretty un-holiday things, but everyone in the film learns from each other, and I think that's what makes it a heartwarming classic that's a true portrayal of what family is. So I really, really love Home Alone.
Wow. Oh, could not agree more. So let's roll up our sleeves here and discuss our favorite elements of the film and maybe figure out really what makes this movie work so well. And just in case there's a listener out there who hasn't had the opportunity to see Home Alone, go see it. We're going to kick off our spoiler section starting right now.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what you see?
Spoilers! Right ahead!
Thank you.
So first, just looking at the film as a whole and what makes it feel so warm and memorable and kind of evergreen for every generation, like you were talking about, Connor. Let's start with the themes of the film and why those themes feel so timeless and universal. How do you guys think that writer John Hughes and director Chris Columbus managed to balance the sincerity of the film with that dark and sort of cruel humor at times?
So I think right off the bat, the key story arc in the whole film is Kevin McAllister and his journey of overcoming fear and growing up, and him having to do it basically in the span of a couple of days. So going from somebody who can't even pack his suitcase, as he like really memorably mentions with his line, to going shopping, defending his house against burglars, and really meeting old man Marley. For me, that was like the biggest one. Starting off the movie, hearing about how he's the South Bend shovel slayer, like a serial killer who's living on his block, which is just a made up story from Buzz. And being really afraid of this guy, encountering him a couple different instances throughout the movie, but then meeting him and understanding who he is as a person, that was a really grown up moment from Kevin at the end in the church. So I think for me, that was kind of the biggest theme that we see visually play out through the course of the film.
Yeah. If we were to cover a specific scene on the film, I think that church scene with Old Man Marley may be a contender.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire course of the first two acts of the film, You see Old Man Marley embodied as the shovel slayer. That's how we see him. That's how Kevin sees him.
Mm-hmm.
He has this kind of like grimacing look of pain, or, there's something emotionally going on his face. He's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the church scene, that shot where he walks up to the pew where Kevin is sitting,
Mm-hmm.
and you finally see like a light smile crack across his face. Oh, it's just such a great shot.
Yeah, it's
You're
really
like,
well done.
This is not who we thought. And I think that leads to another important theme, is that things aren't always as they seem in life. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important one in the film.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I also just enjoy when we see Marley throughout the beginning of the film. We always see him in sinister shots, his scary boots walking inside the
Yeah.
shop. They all seem like from a childlike perspective. And so when he comes to church, they both sit on like the same level in the pews and just kind of have a heart to heart. And you kind of understand the reason why he may have an affinity for Kevin is because he isn't able to spend time with his grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads into one of the third more prominent themes in the film, which is loneliness. And being lonely is a complicated thing. It doesn't always mean that you're physically alone.
Mm-hmm.
It can be feeling unseen in a crowded house full of 15 people, which I think is what Kevin feels throughout the film. That's why he acts out and what causes this mess to begin with. And realizing that importance of family. It's not always perfect, but working through those challenges, especially around the holidays, it's kind of time to reflect on that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, Cody, what you just mentioned, almost feeling like you're the odd one out in the family, that was maybe the most apparent thing to me upon rewatching it. Like, of course, you get the overcoming fear and growing up, how things aren't always as they seem. But that third one, they really do such a good job of showing how Kevin is borderline like ignored in his family in the very beginning of the film. And as we see throughout the rest of the movie, he's a very intelligent, smart kid, emotionally in touch with his feelings, really cares about his family. And I think it's a good way to show how through those three different themes, you don't want to take what you have for granted, especially with your family, even though you may need to work through challenges with people in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It kind of speaks to the idea of the holidays.
Mhm.
It's not always the, quote unquote Hallmark version, the
Right.
white snowy piece of family by the fire. Like, it's a challenging time of year. And I think this movie isn't afraid to face that and has some teeth when dealing with that kind of thing.
I also like that they don't shy away from the stress that it puts upon parents.
Yeah.
We really do get to feel for them. And I think it hits more when you do watch it as an adult. Like a trip to Paris during the holidays with like 15 people was like insane.
Yeah. And thinking about the trip to Paris, the home setting, let's talk a little bit about the background on the making of the film and where it's set.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned at the top of the show, this was shot mostly in Winnetka, but also in Oak Park, Illinois. So right in our backyard, basically. We all grew up in the Chicagoland area, the North Shore. New Trier High School is a really famous high school in the area that was used as a sound stage of sorts where they could build the interiors of the houses and then also flood them as necessary for the later parts of the film. New Trier was also used as the location for Ferris Bueller and Uncle Buck, and famously John Hughes, living in Lake Forest with his family, loved to shoot in the North Shore of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Hughes definitely had an aversion to the Hollywood studio system, sort of George Lucas-esque in that way in Northern California. And I think, as you said earlier, this is all such a point of pride that these John Hughes films are so iconic because of that feel. Like Ferris Bueller just wouldn't be the same if you didn't have the parade in Chicago.
And I know there was a practical point of view from Hughes' perspective. He liked to have his cast in the setting of the film so they wouldn't be distracted by, like you said, Cody, Hollywood, being in LA, being around things that wouldn't necessarily place them wherever that movie is taking place. So it really allowed them to get into character and feel like they were inhabiting this family.
Yeah.
One thing that I found really interesting was that the original budget for the movie was $10 million dollars, and they were partnered with Warner Brothers. But as the production went on, the budget climbed closer to 15 million. They were told by production that they couldn't do it, and so Warner Brothers actually shut them down. And because of some meetings between John Hughes and 20th Century Fox that were happening in the background, Fox swooped in and funded the film. So there was a period of time where it was completely shut down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those legendary, huge industry mistakes where obviously this film went on to become one of the most successful holiday films of all time.
Yeah, and just to put it in perspective, when Home Alone finally left theaters, which I think was almost close to summer the following year, it was the third highest grossing movie of all time, behind
Wow.
Star Wars and E.T.
That's so crazy.
Absolutely insane. Yeah, can you imagine being a Warner Brothers executive and seeing this unfold before your... I mean, obviously they have to make a decision. There's an agreed upon budget. You go over the budget.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a huge risk, and I kind of sympathize with that decision, but it has to be so painful for them.
Yeah.
I do too. Yeah. How could somebody predict this being as big of a hit as it was? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
There's no way.
There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that leads into some of the creative decisions that made that hit. First and foremost, casting, starting with the young star Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, he was the perfect choice. And it sounds like he was actually at the top of the list for the role because of his time spent with John Hughes during the making of Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
So it sounded like he was a natural choice, but he's so good in this.
Oh my God. Rewatching this, I was like blown away by how good his performance is. This kid is a star. He plays it perfectly right.
Yeah.
I mean, his energy, his wit, like his timing is so good. And I know, Cody, we've talked about this on the podcast before, but sometimes precocious kids can be a drawback for you, but he just doesn't go there at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He just plays this part incredibly well. It's an amazing performance.
Yeah. Yeah. He's so relatable. And for some reason, he kind of has that timeless quality to his performance. Like at any age you watch this, like you're around his age, you relate to it. You're an adult, you relate to it, and to other aspects of the film, as we've been talking about. He just sort of gets it.
Yeah.
He understood the assignment. He just has an intelligence about him at that age that I think is so rare in a young performer, where he's clearly able to take specific direction from Chris Columbus and implement it physically on screen. Like I was noting this moment in the film where he's starting to miss his family. He's laying in his parents' bed at nighttime. He's about to go to sleep, and he pulls out this framed photograph of them.
I love that.
I love that moment. And there's a moment where you can see him kind of look from left to right.
Yes.
To see like, oh, is there anyone watching as I like
Right.
smooch this photo? And it's really, it doesn't seem like it's something that maybe he made up on his own, but it was a specific piece of direction where it was like, kind of look around and be bashful, make sure that nobody's looking as you reveal yourself emotionally. And he translates that perfectly on screen. And that's kind of clear throughout the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we really have to give kudos to the man himself, director Chris Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
He is a huge lover of Christmas, and Home Alone, it actually wasn't the first Christmas movie he was attached to. 1 year before Home Alone, he was set to direct National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but he bowed out of that project due to a supposed personality clash with actor Chevy Chase.
Oh, wow.
But after directing Adventures in Babysitting and Heartbreak Hotel, Columbus was brought onto Home Alone and was really given free rein by John Hughes to make the creative calls that turned this movie into the enduring classic it is today. So, huge shout out to director Chris Columbus.
Yeah. There are also a couple extremely iconic performances, and one of those for me is Joe Pesci as Harry Lime. What did you guys think rewatching this?
It's so funny. We talked about different perspectives of watching this as a kid versus an adult. And I think it even comes to casting as well. You know, we see Joe Pesci, and as an adult, I'm familiar with him in movies like Goodfellas, Casino, other gangster movies. And so seeing him in this role is really funny in a way that didn't really land on me as a kid. And also seeing him come up with his own language that skirts really close to swearing every single time he gets hurt is just so memorable.
So, Mark, I think it was you who told me that he had to do a lot of retakes, right?
Mhm.
Because he was actually swearing
Yes.
coming off of those movies that he had filmed that you just mentioned. Then he did a kids movie.
Right, right.
Yeah, just dropping F-bombs left and right on set.
I
And
feel like you can almost hear it in a few takes.
Yes.
Yeah.
100% you can. Yeah. And it's also interesting to hear a little bit about the alternate reality of who could have been in the role and how it would have changed the film. The number one pick apparently at the time was actually Robert De Niro,
Oh,
who
wow.
may have brought that similar quality we're talking about as Joe Pesci, but I don't know. Pesci just works so well. I just can't imagine anyone else in the role. And then I guess second choice was apparently John Lovitz, which
Weird.
Oh,
which
weird.
would have been really interesting, but I guess because of his time on Raging Bull and a number of other instances, Joe Pesci was ultimately recommended, and like you were saying, Connor, is just ultimately the perfect fit in the role.
I think it's because Pesci is also one half of the equation, too. There's something in the physicality of seeing Joe Pesci next to Daniel Stern. You get that height difference.
Yeah.
It just works so incredibly well.
Now that you brought it up, let's talk about Daniel Stern a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his, actually.
Me too.
We covered heavyweights on an earlier podcast, but the equivalent movie for me was Rookie of the Year, another Chicago film, which was directed by Daniel Stern and stars him as well. And so I just owe a lot of like childhood memories to him. And I think his physicality
Right.
as Marv is just incredible.
Yeah, and there's something really lovable about him too. Like I think, like you were saying, Cody, Robert De Niro maybe would have been too serious or too like threatening almost, but the fact that Pesci and Stern have this like goofy quality, and especially Daniel Stern, he seems like, although he's flooding people's houses and just generally being like a bad guy, there's something that's endearing about his character at the same time. Like maybe he's just got mixed up in this, and
He's like a
Yeah.
giant child.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's even that one line, Mark, where where they're talking about like the silver tuna of this
Yeah.
incredible
Silver tuna tonight. Yeah.
silver tuna tonight, and they're talking about everything that could be in the house, and Joe Pesci says something like odd marketable securities could be in the house,
Yeah.
jewelry, and then Daniel Stern chimes in, toys.
Toys?
Toys. Yeah.
Yeah, he's wearing
That's
like
what-
the scuba mask. Like he's playing
Yeah.
around.
He's a very playful character, but also like incredibly fucked up at the same time, because
Yeah.
the whole Wet Bandits calling card, that disturbs me every time I see. It's like the most messed up thing you could do,
Ugh.
adding insult to injury on top of already robbing each house.
Right.
Well, I think that's what I was trying to say, I guess. It's like he is playing what he thinks a robber should be. It's like, hey, we all have our calling card. It's like he's living out what he saw on TV growing up or something.
Totally. And another bit of just alternate reality casting there. Originally, I guess Dan Stern got the part, particularly because he and Pesci had a role together previously in another film. But Stern had left for scheduling and budgetary reasons. They expanded the scope of the shoot and I guess weren't going to compensate him accordingly, so he left. Then Daniel Roebuck was brought in, but I guess wasn't really working for the tone of the film. So they went back and got Daniel Stern, locked him in. Yeah, and just sort of that perfect chemistry with Pesci resulted, and this is what we ended up with.
These really do seem like two guys who might be able to be outsmarted by a kindergartner.
While we're on the subject of adults, what did you guys think of seeing Catherine O'Hara as Kate McAllister?
So for me, there were a lot of details that came to light on my most recent rewatch. I think, for me at least, it seems like she's the breadwinner of the family, maybe with the most successful, high-powered job. It's not overtly said, but just the way that she is keeping track of everything. Everybody looks to her for the answers. She's the one who pays the pizza guy when he drops off the pizza. She's like the responsible adult of the entire family.
Yeah, it's almost interesting seeing how easily Peter McAllister is manipulated in any given situation. Like I remember Buzz coming down and patting his dad on the back like, Dad, let's go eat. Let's go eat some pizza, and just kind of like shuffles him off to the kitchen, and Kate is left to deal with everything. And I guess in the novelization of the film, she may be identified as a like a high-powered fashion designer of sorts.
Interesting.
Hence all of the mannequins in the house. And when you're in the basement, you may see a mannequin or two. So I thought that was an interesting...
That makes sense.
Observation from the novelization.
Yeah, it's all there. We've seen the movie so many times at this point that I was starting to look into the background and I noticed the mannequins. And then obviously they even come into play when we have this scene with rocking around the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And Kevin's dancing around with like the different strings that are on mannequins to make them look like silhouettes of people. Yeah. And so they play a role in there as well.
Oh yeah. And there's also a sewing machine. I don't know if you guys noticed in the parents' room. It's like very old, but it's clearly there. Wow, this is like blowing my mind. I never knew that before. Never put that together.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about like what these people do for a living, just because it's not a central part of the film. It's really just implied that it's a very well-off family. One thing that Monica and my wife Monica, observed while watching the film recently was some of the costuming, particularly with Kate McAllister, and how fitting into that fashion designer assumption, she has these incredible outfits. Like a couple days before Christmas, the chaos of the house, dealing with all this stuff, 15 people crowding her. She's in this like stylish houndstooth suit that's like immaculate. And Monica and I were just joking, like, how are our kids gonna look back at how we were dressing, like at all, or around the holidays? Like, oh, we're in sweats, and like it's just not the same era at all. And I just love how stylish everyone is. Even Kevin.
Oh yeah,
with like a tucked in flannel. He's like a little old man almost.
It's so funny how he chooses to like dress himself up the day that he has to go out for groceries.
Right.
Yeah, it's really an amazing contrast looking back 33 years ago. So Catherine O'Hara at the time of filming was 36, which like we're approaching that. But
Mark, I know that you would observe that Daniel Stern was 32 at the time of filming. And like in the mind of a child, he just seems kind of like this like much older presence with that like goatee, very scary, but it's like a year younger than we are now.
Right. I know.
It's a very sobering thought. I find myself looking up actors' ages during filming of like all these iconic movies, and I just feel like terrible about myself.
We've got a few other really great characters that round out the cast. We have Roberts Blossom, R.I.P., as Old Man Marley.
Amazing.
Jerry Baman as Uncle Frank, John Candy as Gus Polinski. What jumped out to you guys about these characters rewatching?
Oh man, Uncle Frank. Every single time I see him,
he's a jerk.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and that's something that was completely lost on me as a kid. I just remember him being like an angry character, but not really realizing that he was a cheapskate too. And so that color of him just makes him a really fun character. I just think about his scene on the plane when he like instructs his wife to like steal, were they like salt and pepper shakers?
These are real crystal. Yeah. Put it in your purse.
Yeah. Fill it up, please. Fill it up.
Fill it up. Fill it up. Fill it up.
Also, the way he equates leaving Kevin behind to like leaving his reading glasses behind. It's just so out of touch.
And just when he tries to feign like emotionality, he's just like, just horrible. When like Kevin's mother is obviously in distress, it's just, oh man.
Like he doesn't really care about Kevin.
Right.
No,
Hates
clearly
him.
not. Look what you did, you little jerk. And it's funny you brought that up, Mark, because Monica and I were talking about where the choice stemmed from to make him cheap and why that is like a character trait. And we were discussing this and how it may just be to kind of give Kevin's character a little wind beneath his wings, like a little more reason to dislike his family in this moment and act out and wish his family away. It's just kind of this quirky character trait that makes him more despicable.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because they allude to some details around that in the film. So the family's going to see Peter and Frank's brother in Paris. And, through that, we can assume that maybe their brother is like the most successful of the three. He just moved to Paris for a job. He's flying the entire family out to Paris, which would be like astronomical, 15, 20 people.
Yeah.
Some of the families flying first class. So to me, in the pecking order, Frank is like clearly number 3, probably behind Kevin's dad and then this brother who's in Paris. But there's a great scene where Frank chooses to like serve shrimp that are not ready to be served just yet to the family when they're in the Paris apartment. So it's almost like his way of trying to take what he can or like assert his power. He might be the oldest in the family and like the least successful.
I'm glad you thought about that because like a lot of that was even lost on me. I never even considered half of that. I always just kind of assumed that John Hughes was playing on different character types that you would actually just see in a family setting, right? It's instantly relatable that you usually have somebody in a family who's, a little bit cheaper, a little bit resentful, and just kind of like rides the coattails of everybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're going to keep coming back to this over and over again, but I think that's why this film is so powerful and timeless, is because you can approach it that way, where it's just kind of an archetype of a character in like a comedy holiday film, or you can dig into this for 10 minutes and talk about like, what do we think these people do? Everyone feels so real, and the moment you are brought into the film, there's no introduction. There's no preamble. You're just in their world and in a crowded house of 15 people thrown in with all of these idiosyncrasies. It's just like classic John Hughes and incredibly done.
Mm-hmm. Another delight to see on screen is obviously John Candy.
Yeah.
And the performance he puts on as the polka king of the Midwest.
Yeah. Gus Polinski.
I really loved how Catherine O'Hara's character is not turned off by this guy who like approaches her, and she really like relates to him on a human level and goes with him and his band, who he clearly has like a inflated sense of their notoriety in like a U-Haul van across the country.
Right.
What did he says something like we had a #1 hit. Where, in Chicago? No, Sheboygan.
We're big in Sheboygan.
We're big in Sheboygan.
They sold like 600 copies.
That's
or something.
623, wasn't it, or something?
The detail is great. Yeah.
And that was all improv. And it's just great seeing Catherine O'Hara and John Candy interact because they both have a very strong improv background.
Yeah. His timing is just incredible when they're in the van together and he's going around the group saying like, this guy hasn't even met his kid.
Right.
And the story about how he left their kid in a funeral parlor is just so dark and so funny.
It is so dark. Amazing. I love how he says like, yeah, and then he finally started talking again.
Yeah.
It
just like, doesn't help anything, clearly.
No.
I thought there was a great detail here about, it's a very minor role, but a very memorable one at the same time, that the photo we see of Buzz's girlfriend is actually the art director's son who volunteered to dress up and put on a wig. I don't know if you guys knew this, but apparently Chris Columbus didn't want to use a real girl because it would just be too mean to do that to somebody.
That is such a thoughtful approach to this.
Very
like
sensitive.
They could, very, very sensitive. They could have just brought someone in who could have been bullied as a result, even just people saying like, Buzz, your girlfriend, woof, like for the rest of her life. Can you imagine that?
And I mean, they didn't even have the foresight that this was going to be as big of a hit as it was. So imagine being that girl.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think it just goes to show how what makes this movie work, it doesn't punch down on anybody, maybe aside from like Marv and Harry. But
right.
No one is really knocked down a peg. And it even goes into the casting decisions like we saw here.
Yeah.
How could we forget Roman Roy is actually in this movie too?
Oh.
Possibly his origin story.
I love that. Kieran. Yeah, so interesting to see him in Succession now. He's maybe on screen in this for like all of 2 minutes, but he makes every second of those minutes count.
He's one of the more memorable characters for me, and one of my favorites, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, those the glasses, and I really want to get into this more when we get to editing of the film, but one of my favorite little sequences is, if he has something to drink, he's going to wet the bed. And when he's drinking that like product placement Pepsi in that like perfectly lit, medium close up shot at the table, he has a swig of the Pepsi and then looks at Kevin McAllister and kind of knowingly raises his eyebrows like, I'm doing this to fuck with you.
Which is so weird because it's like, is he saying like, I'm going to pee and like, I'm excited to do it? Or is he just like, oh, look what might happen?
Yeah, I think that moment is played solely for the benefit of the audience.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really make sense in the world of the film, but that's just kind of what this movie is. It knows how to manipulate those moments, even though it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
In the film itself.
There's a few moments in the movie where they break the fourth wall. I can think of Kevin looking at the screen and saying, I made my family disappear.
Yeah, there are a couple like POV change moments that I definitely wanted to ask you guys about. There's so much direct address to the camera. I think even more so in the second film. But one instance is Catherine O'Hara screaming, Kevin, on the plane and looking straight down the barrel of the lens. And then Culkin screaming into the camera after encountering Old Man Marley when he's running upstairs. And then, like, of course, the singing White Christmas in the mirror, which is played as like a non-diegetic source cue.
Right.
It doesn't seem like he's playing that out of a radio in the bathroom. It's just sort of like part of the soundtrack and he's singing to it.
There's one more too, which is subtle, but another use of direct to camera is when he's thinking of how he made his family disappear, and we're getting all those vignettes of the characters appearing around his head, and they're all delivering the line like down into the camera, like they're speaking directly to him from his point of view, and it's it's so good. It's like a warped version of what the real soundbite was.
Right.
Yeah, which is really interesting you say that, Connor, because all of them are totally alternate version, almost as Kevin experienced it and remembers it with slight changes. And then there's the one added quote unquote memory of Buzz saying, I'm going to feed you to my tarantula. Which he never even says in the film earlier. So that was an interesting choice to include that.
I think it's just Kevin having these experiences and then conflating them with, what he could see them being, like their most mean insults that they could throw at him.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good visualization of like spiraling, just like thinking about everyone in your life who's, hard on you or something like that.
Yeah. That's how everyone goes through life. Just imagining faces of their friends and loved ones, just insulting them.
So Cody, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that 90s kind of feel to this. Obviously it was shot on film, but there's just this undeniable memory-like quality to the whole film. And it also just feels distinctly Christmas. Anything from like a filmmaking technique to achieve this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the cinematographer on the film is Julio Macat. And I actually saw on an American cinematographer retrospective on the film, they had scanned a letter that he wrote to his team before the shoot started. I'd love to just read a little bit from that pre-shoot letter that he wrote, just a couple sentences. So he said, in broad terms, our story should be told from a 9-year-old's point of view. The world he sees is bigger, more exaggerated. We'll be shooting lots of low angles and often wide angle lenses for both discovery and comedy. The tones in Kevin's world will be warm in the direction of Norman Rockwell. All of the classic elements we've always imagined Christmas to be. So it's just kind of a nice encapsulation of what they were going for. They use such nice, soft, cheerful lighting, and especially in the scenes outside where we're seeing street lamps, which I know we're all kind of used to from our like Chicago suburbs, as well as Christmas lights, like the Winnetka Christmas Village where he goes to see the funny Santa and the elf. We're experiencing this sort of halation of the lights out there, this kind of soft, glowy fall off, and getting that same effect on faces that we're focused on, like focus falling off into this really textured, grainy feel that just evokes that warm sense of the holidays. And personally, I think it's really hard to achieve this on anything but film stock.
Yeah.
And is really reminiscent of films like It's a Wonderful Life. It kind of has that glowy, it's like a color version of It's a Wonderful Life, that glowy texture to it that's almost like, you know, the Vaseline look of films of that era. And which is funny because it's kind of a reverse on It's a Wonderful Life. If you think about this movie, like him realizing that, you know, he needs his family, sort of a reversal of that famous, incredible film.
Right.
Yeah. And on top of the lighting, if we're thinking about how else they're incorporating the Christmas feel, I noticed this last rewatch, but nearly everything in the house is red or green. I mean, there are floral wallpapers, the bedding, the curtains, the carpet, the props like the telephones, the firecrackers, and the plot they explode in. We're really getting that color story told through the production design and choices. Did you guys pick up on that at all?
I did. And I think it obviously is because it took place on a set and they were able to make all those choices consciously. They really wanted to make sure that when you saw it, it just felt like Christmas.
Right.
Yeah, it almost seems like this film feels nostalgic as a result.
Yeah.
So we talked about the inside of the house, and Connor, I already know the answer to this because you discussed it earlier, but we got to talk about the house itself, the exterior. Have you guys visited the house before? Or Cody, have you?
Yeah. We went to Winnetka a couple years ago when we were in Chicago, intentionally went out of the way to go to the house, and of course had to snap a selfie with, you know, our hands on our cheeks, like the screaming pose, like everyone on earth does in front of that house.
Right.
But yeah, had to do it at least once in my life, just bucket list item.
I weirdly haven't, and so I might try to do it this year because it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we never did it either, but my wife and I decided to go last night, and I don't know why, but I was like surprised to see how crowded it was around the house. Like, of course it would be. It's super famous. I know as recently as 2021, they did an Airbnb promotion where you could stay in the house, but this house itself, it's incredible. Like seeing it in person, it's like somehow even cooler than it is in the movie. It still looks incredible. They've added like a gate around it, which I think just helps like control with the crowd.
Right.
So there's a practical sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And the production designer on the film, John Hughes, he had this great little quote that was on the Home Alone movies that made us special on Netflix. And he says, the house had to be special enough to justify Kevin's actions.
It's a great quote.
And I just think that's a really great way to put it. I think they kept referring to it as, you know, on the podcast and in life, we're always wary of saying, you know, this house or this location is a character in the film. It's like such a stereotypical thing to say. But on set, they referred to the house as like the second character of the film. And yeah, it's just a beautiful house. It's kind of that Georgian architecture along with that like Americana cozy interior. It's just that perfect combination.
So another detail here, I know we touched on this speculating what Peter and Kate McAllister do, but obviously this family is very well off. So I did a little digging here. The house actually sold for $875K in January 1989, which is right around the time it was actually shot. So it was expensive even back in the 90s. And today it's estimated to be worth roughly $2.4 million. So needless to say, Kevin's parents were well off, whatever they did for a job. Another great setting within the film, very Chicago area specific, O'Hare Airport. So I was having this discussion with my wife, but do you guys think there's any way they're making that flight in 45 minutes in 1990, getting from Winnetka to O'Hare.
Absolutely not.
No way. No.
I mean, so I was with you guys, but also there was no security back then. So
How long is the drive itself from Winnetka to O'Hare?
I would say at least 30 minutes if there's no traffic.
They did have the American Airline sponsored vans to take them there. So
I know. So if they're dropping that luggage and just running straight in, I mean, maybe.
But I think Frank says the flight leaves in 45 minutes. So it's like, that's not even, they're going to France. Your bags are going to be screwed.
Mm-hmm.
You're boarding usually half an hour before so really it's like they're starting to board in 15 minutes.
Right.
It just doesn't seem possible.
And it's an international flight.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, don't they board even more in advance, like 45 minutes or an hour. Yeah.
Well, there's no way they're making it by today's standards, but
No.
who knows? Maybe in 1990.
And all the while through the scene as a whole, Run, Rudolph, Run, amazing needle drop by Chuck Berry. I think that leads us into potentially the most important aspect of the film, the most important creative discipline that made this movie what it is, and that is the score by John Williams as well as the soundtrack. Williams's impact on the film cannot be overstated. It was absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Let's get into why that is.
One of the interesting things about it too was that they didn't get John Williams until they had a rough cut of the film.
Oh, wow.
So he was the last component before the film was finished. It was actually like a pipe dream for them because they didn't think they would be able to get him, but it was his love for the movie when he had seen the rough cut that actually secured him as the composer.
Yeah, it's just unthinkable to imagine this movie without John Williams' score. They're completely inseparable. And when John Williams screened the film, like you mentioned, Mark, he had already been working for years with Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and he was world famous. I mean, probably the most famous composer working in film. So his involvement just immediately spoke to the power of the film and helped bolster its success.
Yeah. So probably the two most recognizable pieces of music from the film that everyone associates with Home Alone are the leitmotifs from the film, which are called Somewhere in My Memory and Star of Bethlehem. They are so impactful that Williams at some point brought on Oscar and Grammy-winning songwriter Leslie Bricusse to craft lyrics around the themes to make them play an even more prominent diegetic role in the film, which goes into the second film as well. So you have your theme, which is the most prominent being Somewhere in My Memory, which everyone recognizes as
There it is.
and then you add the lyrics of Somewhere in My Memory to each of those notes. And same with Star of Bethlehem. It's just this really incredible, kind of rare hybrid of score and songwriting. And you have the choir singing it in the actual film. And it's just like, don't you guys think this is just such a unique circumstance around all this music?
Yeah, that's really well said, Cody. This score is really playful, mischievous, and it's festive all at once. And it also does this thing where it kind of Mickey Mouses some of the on-screen actions that we see. I'm thinking of one specific example where Kevin is sliding down the stairs in the sled, and the score comes to this triumphant halt as he lands in the snow outside.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, very rarely do you see a score and picture in such harmony.
And the only thing we'll add, if you have any interest in learning more about the Home Alone soundtrack and the score, please check out the Soundtrack Show podcast, where David Collins analyzes the score in a 3-part series. It's incredible. It's like a scholarly example of how to break down and assess a score in a film.
It'll change the way you watch the movie for the better.
It really will.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. Highly recommend checking that out.
100%. And he has so many other great episodes as well. Other John Williams music, Star Wars. He does a video game. It's an incredible podcast. That is the Soundtrack Show.
And then taking a step away from the score, let's just talk about some of the needle drops too. I mean, there's so many iconic ones that have almost become the definitive versions in my mind thanks to this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, they have White Christmas, Run, Rudolph, Run, Oh Holy Night, Carol of the Bells, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and one of my personal favorites, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There are just so many good needle drops packed into this film, and combined with the score, it's just, yeah, like you said, the quintessential Christmas music captured in one film.
It's like we were saying before about Culkin. Everyone understood the assignment here. Everyone was working hand in glove, understood what the other was doing, and worked in perfect harmony. And that kind of leads us into the edit on the film. And Connor, I really want to get your perspective on some of that iconography and design behind the film as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dig in here. In my opinion, there is not a moment of this movie that is wasted. It is a like razor sharp, tight film. The pace is like breakneck, but it doesn't feel too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Of particular note for me are scene transitions like the, I'm living alone. I'm living alone as he's stomping. And then you cut right to one of his cousins tapping a couple times on the tarantula terrarium. And it's just like such a clever cut that I don't know if that was planned for in the like, quote unquote previs or storyboarding phase. It may have just been found that like momentum in the edit, and thus is the beauty of an editor. And we absolutely need to mention Raja Gosnell as the editor on the film, who undoubtedly played such a huge impact. And another one of those examples of that transitional cut, Kevin's empty house, when he's waking up and looking around when he's first discovering everyone's gone, and him saying, "Mom," and then the cut to the loud plane engine, which always scared me as a kid. Like, you never really know when that's coming. And it's just representative of his mother, very loudly cascading further and further away from Kevin, heading towards Paris.
The mini stories that are in the film are such a cool detail too. Like the quick cuts showing the progression of the power going out. We get the tree branch kind of falling off, hitting the power lines, that transformer exploding, but also the wind that's coming in at the start of that sequence, and we see it. This kind of like almost scary close up of the Santa within the wreath on the door, like scared me as a kid.
Yeah, it's like a really cool fast tracking shot inward with like a wide angle lens to distort the face of the Santa. Yeah, that always just stuck out. Like what's happening right now is scary.
Right. But it gives us good insight as to how something like the family sleeping in could realistically happen, and they do it within the span of like 30 seconds. It's just like, oh yeah, okay. And then you cut to the repairmen like trying to fix the power and phone lines right outside the home.
Which kind of provides an explanation as to why no one can reach Kevin like on the landline.
Right.
And I love how all of this would be solved today. Simple like text message.
Yeah.
Kevin, we left you. We're coming home.
What's so great about these details though is that they don't really necessarily feel shoehorned in either. They're there if you want to like pay attention to them, but at the same time, the movie works if you don't think about it too much.
Right.
Yeah, it's those types of details. Like you said, Mark, if you want to pay attention to it, great. If not, it doesn't really impact the story. For example, when there's spilled milk in the kitchen after Kevin's tantrum, the milk spills onto Kevin's plane ticket, and Peter, his dad, throws it in the trash, which gives explanation as to when they're counting tickets, why Kevin is left out. And that could easily be missed in all the chaos of the scene.
Right.
Yeah. There are so many great little moments like that throughout the film, and details, again, that are there if you choose to find them. Yeah. A couple of them, I know you talked about the iconography and design, Cody. We can dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, please.
So the famous pizza delivery company, Little Nero's, their mascot in the logo, it says delivers in 20 minutes or you don't pay, which gives some good context to the reason the driver is driving like an absolute maniac, because of that 20-minute time limit.
20 minutes is like insane too.
I know.
Yeah, completely just like spinning out on the ice of the street. And then, of course, the famous like crash into the weird like bronze
Statue.
sculpt statue
Mhm.
in front of the house. Yeah, I love the subtitle under the little Nero's "No fiddling around."
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And the van that Marv and Harry are driving is, I don't know if anybody caught it. It says OK Plumbing and Heating. And underneath it, you're flood control experts, which is just really ironic given that they are the wet bandits, of course.
Yeah.
And what kind of name is OK Plumbing? Like, why would you want an OK plumber?
I don't know. It's just, it's like they nailed the design of that van because it's something that you just wouldn't look twice at.
Right.
You just
Forgettable.
kind of assume that whatever, they're there, they're plumbers, nothing I need to worry about.
Yeah.
Connor, can you talk a little bit about the Home Alone logo as well?
Yeah, so it's featured pretty prominently in the opening title sequence. I think for me, aesthetically, just kind of a perfect embodiment of late 80s, early 90s design, designed by RGA at the time. Kyle Cooper was the designer. So for everybody who can maybe hold the picture in their mind, it's the red house with the single light on with blue text surrounding it, Home Alone. And that house is in the middle of the words Home Alone. During the title sequence, we get this great light switch sound effect. And as far as the logo itself, we have that single window with the light on, which is a good implication of the title. Just one person home alone in this big house.
Mm-hmm.
Another nice detail, all the letters are capitalized in Home Alone except for the E, which is smaller and tilted. And for me, that kind of implied that Kevin is the odd one out of the family. It's one character that maybe doesn't quite fit in with the rest. And it also shows how maybe he's feeling small and inconsequential, but ultimately kind of learns to be self-sufficient. I also thought that the capital letters framing the house could suggest this block full of empty houses and just really creates a sense of isolation with that house in the middle. So there's a lot there if you want to read into it. I feel like it's just a nice piece of graphic design.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would not have picked that apart. That's really, really cool.
Speaking of other details, there's a scene in here in particular that we can talk about a little bit that has many, many great little moments, and that is the booby trap sequence.
Of course, yeah.
Do we want to talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah, kind of the namesake of the film. We would be remiss if we did not quickly just jump through each of the traps, these very cruel, increasingly cruel traps that Kevin creates for the wet bandits. Let's just breeze through and we can point out some of our favorite details from some of these.
All right, so we first start off with the BB gun, which Harry is shot in the crotch immediately, and Joe Pesci lets out this howl. And then Marv decides it's a good idea to put his face in the dog door and get shot right in the forehead. So that's how everything gets kicked off.
Yeah.
I mean, that would break skin, right? Like a BB.
That close range,
100%.
Yeah. This sequence really skirts a fine line. It's not bloody, but it probably should be, given some of the violence that we're seeing happen here.
It's very cartoonish.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to it, but the one that makes me kind of like shudder even thinking about it every time I watch is the nail in the tar stepping on the nail. Oh, there's again no blood, but it's very like visceral. Anyway, trap number 2, Kevin has put water down on all of the stairs surrounding the house. So anytime the wet bandits try and climb the stairs towards the house, they slip and fall in a horrific fashion, like back-breaking fashion.
This is all so smart on Kevin's part, by the way. Like, I don't think I would have thought to do any of this if I was his age, but it's extremely imaginative and so clever. Like, the production department, art department just went crazy on these, and they lend themselves to such great visual gags.
Right. I love the little map that he draws to show us how he planned that out. And he's like, by Kevin McAllister in the bottom right corner.
Right, of course he signed it in the bottom corner.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the battle plan. Yeah.
I think for me, the iron drop where Kevin sets up an iron up on the laundry chute to fall onto Marv's face is just maybe the most visceral one.
And it almost implies that the iron may have been on and heated.
Yeah.
Because when it hits his face and there's like that crazy indent.
Imprint. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which looks borderline like a burn.
I mean, if that thing were to have fallen vertically as opposed to horizontally,
Oh, God.
You know,
Never thought about it that way.
Yeah, young Kevin McAllister's just liable for like a fatality.
murder. Yeah.
Manslaughter. Speaking of imprints, let's talk about the next trap, which is the McAllister doorknob. Kevin uses a device to heat up the doorknob, and Harry touches it, and an M is burned onto his palm.
Uh-huh.
And before we go any further in it, do you guys know the device that he used to heat the doorknob? Do you know what that was?
I don't actually. I always assumed it was some kind of like hair curler or
I
something.
had no idea what it was, so I finally looked it up. Cody, any guesses?
No, I don't know.
It's an electronic charcoal starter.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah, I had no idea. I've never seen one in real life.
Wow.
good job, Kev.
Uh-huh.
I love the fact that it's the M for McAllister, which like permanently scars this bandit's, palm
Branded.
and then carries over into the next film. A great detail. As he's like outstretching his hands to capture Kevin in Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, you see the M burned on his hand still. Love that detail. And then we get the tar nail. Kevin lays like some sort of surface with this black sticky tar substance and then sticks a nail through it, which kind of brutal.
Stern definitely sells this with his screen and falling backwards.
We also get the blowtorch, where Kevin has set up a blowtorch when Harry steps into the kitchen. So his entire top of his head gets burned off, and we linger on this shot for what seems like a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As he's kind of like frozen and doing his Joe Pesci yell. It's very good.
I think this may be the most harmful out of all of them. You would have third-degree burns.
Mark, I'm just gonna go ahead and put in the doctor's note bumper right here because I want further analysis on the remaining traps, please.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Yeah, so I think the blowtorch would definitely lead to third-degree burns, of which could become infected over time, and it would be immensely painful.
And then we have Chicken Harry, which is probably the most like innocuous, childlike, joke trap.
Mm-hmm.
There's saran wrap stuck between the two pillars of the door, and he steps into it, sticky substance on his face, and then a fan kicks on as he's coming through the door and covers him in feathers. And then
this one is just insult to injury.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of foot play that's happening here. Next to the nail with the tar, the ornament crush with Marv stepping on the ornaments. I just really felt this one. And Marv really steps down with some force on these ornaments.
Right.
I can't tell if this is Tarantino's dream or his nightmare. He loves this film.
Torture.
Not to mention, he's walking barefoot in the snow during all of this as well.
Right, because his shoes have come off from the tar on the steps in the basement at this point.
After that, we're treated to the Micro Machines slip with both Harry and Marv. So they're walking in that central foyer area and they slip and fall on their backs.
Yeah, like a good foreshadowing moment. Each one of these was kind of foreshadowed earlier in the film, but there's a line of dialogue about how Kevin left out his Micro Machine. Someone was going to break their neck and slip and fall if he didn't put them away. And we see him remember that and use that here.
Mark, I'm curious with this fall and the ice slip, how would like impact your back like that? Like that'd be like a permanent injury. I mean,
I'd say at their age, especially Joe Pesci, he'd have a hard time just like walking around normal after something like that.
And then, of course, we get one of the most famous traps, which is then repeated in the second film with a twist. We've got the paint can swing, where from the upper banister of the staircase, Kevin is swinging like full paint cans attached to rope, which then hits each of them, smashes them in the face as they're trying to run up the stairs. And fun detail that I didn't notice until watching it yesterday, how Marv mentions that Harry loses a gold tooth, like, you're missing some teeth. You can actually like see and kind of hear the small gold tooth like pop out of his mouth, like if you look closely.
Right,
which is,
I
like,
saw
a
that
crazy
too.
Detail.
For the first time ever, I noticed that on this rewatch.
Yeah.
Right after this, we have the tripwire at the top of the stairs where Harry gets snagged by the wire, but Marv hops over and he almost catches Kevin. And for a moment, we think maybe the game is up.
Right. Do you think that this was almost a shortcoming of Kevin's plan?
I feel like he spends a lot of time watching how his traps work on these guys versus just focusing on getting away. And maybe that's where he's slowed down a bit.
Right.
Yeah. It could be like he's almost getting like a little cocky because he has these little one-liners that he says to them, like as they're getting destroyed.
Right.
And after that, he finds Buzz's tarantula, which I haven't read these, but according to the novelization, the tarantula is named Axel.
Oh, funny.
Really?
Kind of a funny thing. But he puts Axel onto Marv's face, resulting in probably one of the funniest screams ever in a movie.
I'd say it's iconic.
Yeah, the scream is great, and it kind of creates a trap in and of itself because Marv then hits Harry with a crowbar while trying to get the tarantula off him. So these guys are tied up and trying to get the tarantula off them while Kevin has made his way across a rope to the treehouse.
Which leads to our last trap, so to speak, which is the rope cut, in which I think there are a pair of garden shears. Kevin uses these to cut the rope as the wet bandits are trying to traverse across it into the treehouse, leading them to almost Tarzan into a brick wall and then fall backwards.
Which again, leaning into the doctor's note, it feels much like their hit against the brick wall feels much lighter than I think that swing would actually be.
They'd be concussed.
There we go.
Yeah.
What I loved about this too is I think where they fall puts them right back where they started.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Of this whole thing, right outside the house.
Yep.
So I have to ask Mark, do you think seeing this at such a young age was the impetus for your love of Saw later in life?
The torture.
The torture. I don't, well, as I've established on the podcast before, I have a weird relationship with the Saw movies. I've seen all of them. I don't know why, but I think you might be right. I never really kind of put them in the same realm, but they are kind of traps and they have different stakes for sure, but maybe it is.
There's something there.
There is.
I'm so glad we walked through each of these traps. I'm excited to get to Home Alone 2 next holiday season.
Yes.
Where the traps are arguably way more cruel than these.
Definitely.
Way more violent.
Way more
They'd be
fatality.
Deadly.
Yeah, dead. And as we wrap up, I mean, any moments in the film that spoke to you guys otherwise, like any favorite quotes you want to throw out there?
One thing that I thought about this time around, and maybe, I don't know if you guys have thought about it this way, but something almost kind of tragic is when he shoplifts the toothbrush.
Yes.
Had he been caught by the cops, the movie would have been over, right? Because he would have been in the safety of the police department at that point. So it's almost like it's a shame he didn't get caught with that.
I think that's really funny, Mark. There's, I know I mentioned they don't punch down on anybody in the film, but weirdly they do punch down on cops in this movie. They're like completely, they're just inept at their job throughout every task that they're given. So I found that to be really funny. I also love in that same scene where he's grappling with the toothbrush that he just stole and he looks at it and goes, I'm a criminal.
Right, yeah. One thing I noticed too that I had noticed, speaking about the cops, was the donut falling on the phone. I don't know how I missed that, but this was the first time I noticed that.
Really funny.
When he's eating that like chocolate frosted donut, not only does it make me want a donut every time,
me too.
That detail of the crumb falling onto the receiver of the phone, it's like, this guy's just like sloppy.
Right.
Yeah.
Hyper on line 2.
They're rude. They're bad at their job. Yeah.
Tell them to count their kids again.
Right.
It's
There's
so
nobody
rude.
home. The house seems to be secure.
Yeah, I've never thought about the light that cops are portrayed in this film.
The cop who's running after him is like fat. He just like falls immediately.
Right. Runs into a hockey player. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things that really stuck with me as a kid, I mentioned it earlier, was the Angels with Filthy Souls.
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about that at all. Yeah.
It scared me as a kid.
Yeah, obviously this is a fake movie created for the film. Presumably just a couple sequences shot where we get the famous "Keep the change, you filthy animal,"
Mm-hmm.
and which is featured in the second film as well. Oh, I love the fact that they chose to do this and make their own version of a mob movie
Yeah.
that would scare Kevin.
What I especially love about this, watching it again, it is like so clearly from a kid's perspective what they think a adult movie would be like. Like it just captures that scene perfectly. And the fact that there's this quick scene
Yes.
of the dead body get like pumped full of bullets and you see the body like move around a little bit. It's so dark.
Pump your guts full of lead. Well, as we wrap up, I think we can all agree that Home Alone is definitely a bit of a miracle movie. It's just this perfect, magical alchemy of what can come of creative collaborators firing on all cylinders together, just speaking to that really collaborative nature of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for walking through this film, one of our favorite films of all time, definitely favorite holiday film. And I think that wraps us up for our holiday episode of Scenecraft. Thanks for joining us. Do you have any favorite moments from Home Alone? You can email us at contact@scenecraftpodcast.com with any of your thoughts or comments. Or follow us on your preferred social media platform for the latest news on the podcast. And a very special thanks to Jordan Summerlad for our holiday theme music this week. In January, we'll be ranking our favorite 2023 films, and as we head towards Oscar season, we'd truly be grateful for your help in spreading the word about Scenecraft or leaving us a review or star rating. Happy holidays to you all, and thank you for listening. Talk to you soon.